All right. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name is Likan Olawoye. I am the founder and CEO of BPTN, Black Professionals in Tech Network. I'm incredibly proud of this, session this evening, and we're going to be talking to you about the North American Pandemic and Anti-Racism Task Force, and more specifically, the data and the plan that came out of this task force over the last, few months that we put together. It's been an incredible journey so far, and there's been lots of learnings, lots of growth, and lots of opportunity to really see how we move the needle. For a long time, we always sort of really just use the touchy-feely, this is the right thing to do, but we're beginning to see more than ever, like, this is not just the right thing to do, but there's absolutely an important and a business imperative around this discussion. So today we're going to have a conversation, or at least I'm going to present you some data, and then we're going to be able to do a Q&A, with you if there's any questions at the end. We want to be intentional again about this conversation, so I'm looking forward to really leaning in with you, right, and having an opportunity to have a deep dive into this conversation. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending your afternoon or your evening, depending on where you are in North America with us. And we're excited about the conversation that we are about to have. So again, my name is Likan Olawoye, and I'm the founder and CEO of BPTN. So I wanted to introduce you really quickly to the co-chairs of the task force. As you will see, the many co-chairs are from sort of across North America, and I wanted to personally thank them for their time and their leadership on this task force. And we have a member of our co-chairs that will bring welcomes on behalf of the co-chairs, but also provide some overview and some and a conversation around that. So I'm really looking forward to that, right? As you'll see, we had COO over at Salesforce at China, Tim Clark from the CIO at TD, Molly Q4. She is now a vice president. Congratulations to Molly over at Salesforce. Gibbs is an SVP over at Tableau, and then myself. So it was a fantastic group of leaders that we were able to engage. And then of course I will talk about our membership in a moment. Which is one of our executive membership is here today, and she will talk about her experience and the process that so we took over the last 3 months. So sit tight. It's going to be a great conversation, right? Lots of data, lots of things to run through, right? Get your notepad out, right? And let's have a wonderful conversation. So I wanted to introduce Tim Clark, who is the CIO over at TD. Tim is a friend, is a mentor, someone I respect dearly, and also he was an executive as well as one of the co-chairs on the task force. So I'm really excited to have Tim here to provide a perspective, right, as an ally, as a senior executive in technology, and someone who had sort of firsthand experience of going through this data and really having a conversation and really leaning in. Tim has a unique perspective here and a really passionate perspective that just really excites me. So I'm excited to have Tim on BPTN stage and sort of speaking to you all. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, and very much looking forward to the opportunity to chat tonight. So I guess, can I ask me to quickly just give you a run through on kind of what we've been thinking and how this has all come together, and to understand what you're going to see in these slides coming up tonight. You have to appreciate kind of where we were. We were back at a time, probably 3 or 4 months ago when, every diversity and inclusion initiative was moving, I'm sure, in many different companies, but the underlying sentiments were not well being received, seen, or actually figured through. So Lekan actually stood back and said, hey guys, I want to set up a task force. I want to really talk about, anti-Black racism. And I want to really double down on understanding how corporates, and us, me representing TD in this case, actually are or will or should commit to better outcomes for the Black professionals in any domain, but specifically in and around technology. And so, without any reluctance, happy to join. A little bit skeptical in terms of what we were going to achieve, but quite rewarded and strangely empowered in a new way with respect to data, insights, and analytics that could actually really help us as leaders actually shape the future differently and better on behalf of many different underrepresented populations, especially in my domain, in the tech world, in a financial industries company. So what you're going to see tonight is a lot of very interesting insights. It was a great experience for me as a leader, as a white leader, to understand more of the domain, to understand the areas of focus that were beyond even my comprehension. And you'll see one particular piece of insight which has landed so well with all of us that were involved. And that's essentially a periodic table of different components to actually consider in your strategies as you think about getting the right type of D&I initiatives together for a company. And it's been invaluable to me and our leadership at TD in actually figuring out how we can turn kind of ideas and thoughts into practical commitments, real world data sets that we can actually practically impart to our people with opportunities, and also understand and empathize with how it's going to feel, look, and act to be a black minority inside any company, actually, not just ours. So, buckle in. This is going to be a fun hour or so. Lacan's put in a huge amount of effort to actually really bring a good membership together. And I think you'll be quite interested in the observations, the outcomes, and the practical things that people are now doing to actually continue to change for the better. So Lacan, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tim. Super appreciate your thoughtfulness and your leadership on this stuff. So next, I wanted to bring Colleen Ward to the BPTN stage. Colleen is one of the executives that was on the task force, and she's been a staunch advocate through and through, and I'm really excited to have her join the meeting. Colleen, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Lacan, for the opportunity to address some of our members. Good evening, good afternoon. And I'm going to encourage all of us to pay some close attention and to also impart some of the intelligence that we're going to glean tonight. It was a rewarding few weeks focusing on COVID, and then of course we bolstered the initiative to incorporate anti-Black racism. And personally speaking, I'm affected by both. And as a leader and as a Black woman, I believe that we came up with wonderful, practical, realistic, tangible things for all of us to employ. And me personally, if there's one thing that I struggled with in my career personally, is the network gap. And Lacan is going to discuss that as one of our key themes. And if I can just encourage everyone in that space to use our current circumstances to start practicing intentional networking, because truth is we have to do it virtually, which means it needs to be coordinated. And doing this is a practical way of achieving your personal narrative, and a narrative that would be filled with confidence, poise, and succinct representation of your accomplishments. And that narrative, the stronger it gets, the quicker we're all able to achieve authentic sponsorship. And that is vital. Whether you are still employed and looking to fuel your career trajectory, or if you are unfortunately impacted by COVID and have to look for new employment, it is imperative that you master your personal narrative and achieve authentic sponsorship and surround yourself with a diverse group of mentors and peer coaches. Absolutely vital. And if there's anything I want everyone to take away from this, we all have to support each other. We are all part of this community and a member of humanity. So I thank you all for your support of me during this time. And I encourage us all to invest as much as we can in our narrative so we can achieve the sponsorship we deserve. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Back to you, Lacan.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for your leadership. and your effort on this stuff. It has been so wonderful to just lean into these conversations with you. So team, I want to make sure that you also engage. So if you are in this meeting, right, you are, again, as I always say, you're taking up a spot of someone else, right? This is a conversation. This is some data points that I'm really excited to share with you, and that we will be sharing widely, right? But it's really an opportunity, I guess, really for our members to see, to feel, to hear it, right? So please engage with each other, right? On our chat function below, right? Really lean into it. So as I always do before I jump into it, I want to get your energy. I want to get you connected, right? I want to make sure that you are ready. So one question I wanted to ask you. So again, your chat function is at the bottom there. So if you don't know where it is, right, underneath, right where your shared screen is and your chat function, your participants, click on that, right? Click on the chat function. And I want to ask you a quick question before I jump in. As you understand COVID, right, and the impact of COVID on Black people in general, give me one word that you believe. Why do you believe COVID has disproportionately impacted Black people? One word. Why do you believe COVID has disproportionately impacted the Black community in Canada and the US? So in your chat function, right, unless you are unable to chat, which you should be able to, perfect. So you tell me, why do you believe? Right? And I need all your engagement. There's a whole bunch of you on here. So why do you believe that COVID, impacted the Black tech community more? So racism, systems, I've seen that a few times, right? What do you believe? Access, negligence, right? What else? What other reasons do you believe? Lack of healthcare, job opportunities. What else? Tell me, why do you believe COVID? Unpreparedness. Okay. Racism, selective layoffs. Awesome. Frontline workers, lack of preparation by companies, microaggression, bias, not a priority, disinvestment. Thank you for that, right? This conversation today is going to really move us forward. And in that chat function, I want you to engage each other, right? Not just engage me, but engage each other. You can engage with each other, I believe, right? Because I see, yep, you can engage with each other, right? So remember, when you want to talk to each other, right, you press, to all, right? So to all attendees. So that means everyone can see your comment. If you do just a panelist, only I will see a comment. Right. So there's some folks that have directly, connected to me, which is fine. Right. But we want to make sure that you're connected. So make sure that you are doing participants and all. Right. So thank you all for your feedback on there. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to, talk about task force members. These folks really leaned in over the last 3 months, and I want to thank them individually and collectively. As you'll see on your screen, they're incredible leaders from across North America, from all these companies, right, that have said, and this was before, I want to be clear about it, this was before a colleague of mine this morning said, the awakening that happened a few months ago, right? When we pulled this group together, it was before that. It was, at the heart of COVID, seeing the impact on the Black community and specifically on Black tech. We pulled this together. So these are some of the, members of the task force that, that just leaned in, right? That were visible, that were there, that were present. So huge thank you to them, right? These are leaders that have stood up before the expectation was there, right? These are leaders that understood the need, right? Before, the awakening happened, right? So, huge thank you, huge kudos to these leaders, right? It means a lot, and I'm incredibly thankful to have you on side and on team and as allies and leaders in Black tech. So, much appreciated, and thank you so much for your engagement. So if you don't know about BPTN, right, we are the largest network of Black tech, right, in Canada, top 2, top 3 in the US, right? We're a double-sided marketplace that supports both tech talent, Black tech talent unapologetically, and companies looking to hire, retain, and promote Black tech talent. That is what we do as a company, right? And every single day we wake up and we line in and we step in to fulfill this mission of supporting the Black tech ecosystem, and also companies wanting to hire, develop and promote and Black tech talent. So, there's an amazing group of leaders, amazing group of staff that make up BPTN staff, but over 10,000 professionals from across, North America that make up the membership. Here's just some members and some folks that are sort of in the network on our corporate partner side, right? We are incredibly thankful, and we are so thankful for all of these folks, right? If you've seen your company there, right, give them a slap on the back and go and thank them. If you've not, we got some work to do, right? So huge kudos and huge thank yous to these companies. So what is our community made up of? So it's really important. So as we go into the data, you understand the scope of what we are talking about, right? So take a moment to sort of look at the community in terms of our gender focus, right? And our age, right? All of those pieces are incredibly important, right? So take a moment to look, like, so we have years of experience, right? Incredibly diverse in terms of under to over 10 years, executive 42% of members are sort of managers, people leaders and up, right? And if you start looking also at gender, right, it's an incredible mix. Black women in technology have stood up in a big way, right? And it's really amazing to see, right? So it's something that's really cool to see. And then of course age, again, a great big breakdown, right? In terms of under 24, 10%, right? And then 25 all the way to 50, right? That make up the bulk of our membership, right? It's really important to see. And then regions, right? All across Canada, right? And we just launched in the US in January, right? And we really are excited that we're almost at 20% in the US already, 6 to 7 months in. We're excited about the growth that's happening in the US, and we continue to be really pumped up about that work. So this is a little bit of our membership, right? Take a look. And then the makeup of our community, right? So the skill breakdown, right? So when we talk about Black professionals in technology, we're talking about you are working in technology, in a technology company, or you're working on technology. So you could be sales, you could be marketing, you could be a BA, right? You could be data, but at the same time as well, right? You're a project manager, you're a software engineer, you're a UX designer, right? You are IT operations, right? It's all around. So take a look, like this is the breakdown of the people that have spoken, right? Cloud computing, hardware, network, IoT engineers, right? These are the folks that you are going to hear from, right? In the data this afternoon/evening. So the pandemic survey. So as part of the task force, we wanted to make sure we had a baseline. We didn't just want to come into this conversation, right, and just sort of, talk about it anecdotally. We wanted to make sure that there was a baseline understanding of the conversation needed to be had, right? So we wanted to settle in and actually really, engage the audience, engage our membership, right? And we were able to engage a significant amount of our membership, right, to understand what it is the needs were in the community and in the ecosystem. So this data it's really near and dear to me. So I'm going to take some time as we go through it because it's really important to me. It's actually an emotional thing for me because, my day is filled with talking to executives and talking to Black tech executives, Black tech professionals, and other ally executives across North America and even in Europe all day. So the conversations I hear, the stories I've heard, I see it in this data, right? Firsthand experience, from me, but also from the community, right? I've heard, stories about this. So, excuse me, as we go through the data, I want you to know it's really, really real, right? In terms of a conversation that needs to be had, and we will continue to provide access to this data as we go. So early on when we begun, believe it or not, there was a lack of clarity around the disproportionate impact of COVID in the Black community in Canada, right? There was we're not sure that's true. That may be just in the US. And we know, and we always sort of say that as Canadians. I don't think it's us, it's in the US. If you all remember. And if you don't remember, please ping me on chat, right? But it was something that we all said. Well, most people said, well, not sure that's us here, maybe in the US. And we were clear because we were hearing some of the anecdotal pieces. But then after a while, again, Canada's a little bit slower to this, but we begun to collect data. For a long time, we didn't want to collect data, right? Our governments did not want to collect data. But we begun to collect data, right? And in just a few, jurisdictions, right? Toronto being one and Quebec being another. So we gathered some data and we began to see really, really interesting things. So some of the things that we saw was very clearly, right, that, Black people and other, people of color made up 83% of the reported COVID cases in Toronto. And then we dug down and we said, 21%. So data shows that 21% of Black people accounted for report cases in our city. But we only made up around 9% of the overall population in Toronto. 21% versus 9%. So reported cases of Black community, 21%, right? And we made up 9%. The disproportionality is bigger in the Black community than it is for any other community, right? In Canada and in Toronto, right? That's Arab Middle Eastern, that's East Asian, that's Latin American, that's South Asian, right? Southeast Asian, right? And of course the white community, right? The disproportionality was incredibly clear. And then we said, okay, let's move from Toronto. Let's see what's sort of happening in Quebec. And as you looked at Quebec, you saw that the findings confirmed that what many already suspected. Given that the high death toll on low-income communities, racialized diversity, and racialized diverse neighborhoods in Montreal, right, where 222 people have died of the virus, right, which is much more than all of British Columbia. These are low-income folks. When you do the comparison in terms of who are those low-income, folks, those were Black communities in Quebec as well, right? So across, the jurisdictions in Canada that were collecting the data, it was really, really clear. There was a quote that I remembered from, I think, Quebec, and they said, social distancing is a privilege. Social distancing is a privilege. When you live in a household of 2-3 generations, when you have, you may be doing well as a Black tech professionals, but others in your community may not be, and your family may not be. And they go and they come home to you, right? COVID doesn't, is not over there, it's here. Just think about that. Social distancing is a privilege that not everyone has. And then we went to sort of the US. And the US has a much more robust data set. And it really showed us something that, again, moved us, right? And as I was taking the executives through this, you saw how it moved them, how it moved me. US data today, Americans routinely wait for 6 hours of exams, or 6 hours, right, to get an exam, right? Demand for COVID testing sites, I've sort of gone through the roof. Test sites are incredibly busy, predominantly Black and sort of neighborhoods, right? And you see sort of what's happening. So as we go into the data, look at what's happening in Chicago. So in Chicago, African Americans make up 72% of those who have died from the virus, 6 times greater than the white community. 1 of 3 population, right, are African American, but 42% are infected by the virus. Illinois, right? Blacks are 3 times in the entire state more likely to die from the virus than white community. When you look at Wisconsin, in Wisconsin, the rate amongst Black communities is 6 times that of the white community. Milwaukee, 44 of the 67 people who have died from in the county are Black. Mostly live in, low-income communities. Michigan, Black residents account for 46% of the population, right? Sorry, 46% of the COVID impact, right? But only represent 12% of the population. New York, 18% of the deaths are Black. Only 9% are, represent 9% of the Black community is 9% of the population, but 18% of the deaths. Look at New York City. 65% of the data reporting African Americans make up 28% of the deaths, 22% of the population, right? Look at Philadelphia, Washington, North South Carolina, 3 times Black rates versus white. The data here is clear that there is a disproportionate impact on the Black community. But there was an interesting narrative that began to surface that we wanted to get clear on, especially in industry, in tech. The narrative here was, yeah, it's disproportionately impacting Blacks, but it's over there, it's poor Blacks. So as industry, we don't really need to worry about it. Or, it's a CSR thing, it's sort of a social good, we should donate towards it. Rather than, no, these are your employees that are being impacted. These are your Black tech professionals that are being touched. And that wasn't, believed or understood, right? I think it was Colleen that said, if it touched one, it touched all of us. But the data shows that this is not, over there. This is not just poor Black people, but there's an impact and a disproportionate impact on all Black people, especially in technology. So we surveyed 1,260 of our members, Black tech professionals across Canada and the US. And some data points were really, really clear here. So I wanted to take some time to really go through the data, right? And not be a distraction, so you can just see what is on screen, right? Rather than sort of, rather than me. So male, female representation was pretty, consistent, right? Representative, right? Or very close to representative. And age range, right? You saw a significant group, right, that were sort of, 25 to 34, right, and then 34 to 44, right, and then so it sort of represents tech, right? Tech is young, tech is early, right, and it continues to sort of grow, right? And then it's across North America, so Canada and the US, right? Eastern part of the United States was the significant, and that is where BPTN has its presence, right? And there was a few folks in other regions around the world that also provided some data. So in terms of residents, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary, right, made a significant portion of, the audience and the reporting, right? Toronto obviously being like number one in terms of reporting and feedback, and then followed by Montreal, and then closely behind Ottawa. In the US, you saw Atlanta, Seattle, Washington, New York, right, as sort of top four, followed by New Jersey, Chicago, Los Angeles, right? So again, a good representation in the US. And then in terms of year, experience level, right? You saw a bunch, individual contributors made up a significant portion, followed by frontline managers, and then directors. And then finally, you saw sort of executives and co-founders, C-level. The others you saw sort of like entrepreneurs, students, of course, you saw there at the bottom with 5.24. So let's go into the data. So the first question was, what is the impact of COVID on your family and your relationships? You see here, when you pull together, the impact levels, right? I'm impacted, not at all impacted, somewhat impacted, right? You saw that when you look at both, I'm impacted and somewhat impacted, that made up 67, almost 68%. Their family has been impacted directly or somewhat impacted. This is Black tech professionals. 67.62%, their family has been impacted. And I've heard stories of, my uncle got sick, and then he went to the emergency. They discharged him, came home. He then got his wife sick, and unfortunately, both of them, lost their lives, or his daughter. Or, my uncle was in a senior's residence, and of course, unfortunately, lost his life. Or, my colleague or my next door neighbor was a frontline worker, right? And they didn't have the protective equipment they need, and they lost their lives. We know that our community, Black community, is on the front lines. But we also don't know the connection of Black tech community to each other, that we live in multi-generational homes, that we are connected. And this shows the impact. So imagine you're a Black tech worker coming to work after burying parents because of COVID. A colleague spoke to me about doing multiple Zoom funerals, but they're still showing up every single day in your workplace. Imagine that impact. And then we talked about the impact of physical and emotional, right? So, like, have you been impacted physically by all of this trauma, right? If you look in terms of just somewhat impacted, it's 50%. Right? And you can see here, even the data point on the left-hand side is a bit off, but the data here is very clear, right? That is like over, 76% are impacted physically and emotionally by the data, by COVID, but they're coming to work every single day. So what are Black professionals saying? Take a read through this. Lost a member of my family. We can times like that. As you see, that is almost, 70% of people have been impacted. My wife and I, finances are fine, but I have 3 adult kids that have lost their jobs, are now in the house. There's a data point, anecdotal data, that Blacks in industry are the last hired and the first fired. I want to come on screen for this so you see. The last hired, the first fired. Imagine a Black tech professional saying, I think I'm doing my job right, but I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about losing my work. Because of the historical understanding that last hired, first fired. But then even now when you have children, you may be okay. But those young professionals, those Black young professionals in technology, they may not be. The disproportionate impact, right? I was initially reduced to part-time hours, reinstated after wage, subsidy program was released. Some members of the family, mom and brother, are dependent on me, not fully, but now they're dependent on me, right? And what do you think that means in terms of financial supports? That now, because your family members have lost jobs, they're dependent on your income. So you better not lose yours. Imagine the mental capacity that is there, that you have to own, right? But you still got to show up every day and work. And on top of that, let's pause for a moment. On top of this burden of COVID, there's another burden of now, the awakening, that you still need to show up. And now, not just are you worried about family, but now everybody's asking you in a corporation, what should we do for Black people? Now? Really? When I'm burying family? When I'm worried about my finances? Not because I'm not working, but because I'm touching more people. Now, this is really the time that, I should be, but they do it. But I'll tell you the stories I hear, because you may never hear it. Black tech leaders are tired. The up-and-comers, the ones that are being asked, what should we do? Just think about the additional layer, the additional burden of COVID, the way it's ravaged community, the way it's impacted incomes, the way it's disproportionately impacted Black and Black tech. And then you got to show up, work, and on top of that, make sure that you are focused and giving feedback and insight. These are some realities. So in terms of employment and work-life impact, how has COVID impacted your work? 64% have been somewhat impacted or impacted, right? So meaning lost jobs, wages gone down, right? That's significant. Financial impact, right? As you'll see, 54% financially impacted. Now, truthfully, some of this 54% financial impact was positive, some of it. The vast majority was the other way. So almost 1 in 2, either at work or because of additional financial pressures at home, or funeral expenses, or flying expenses, right? Or sending money because of families losing work, families losing life. You got to show up and then show up at work because you don't want to lose that stream of income. So what we found is 64.5 or 65% of folks who were sort of impacted, their employment and their work has been impacted, right, are also 47.8% who have been financially impacted. So the people whose employment was impacted, 50% of them basically have been impacted financially, right? So it sort of makes sense, right? but the data is sort of clear that the folks whose employment and work have been touched, their finances have been also touched. So when we talk about COVID in Black tech, yes, it's, you know, the physical, getting sick directly, or parents or family, but it's also the employment pieces. And we can all attest to this, that we've all been impacted, of course. We're talking about disproportionality. How many people do you know who's been sick from COVID? How many people do you know who's lost their lives to COVID? How many people do you know who's lost their jobs in tech because of COVID? If you poll Black people, they're much more, right? Because it's much more prevalent in community. So what are they saying in terms of jobs? What we're hearing is networking opportunities are highly impactful. Now, hear this out. All my mentor plans have been impacted though. So as a Black female, I know networking is important. And I had it all lined up. And then boom, COVID hit and I'm done. Job hunting has been severely impacted for everyone, but we'll make a nuanced point here. Forced me to start working in the field I've been trying to move away from. So like really pivoting. Now, why does this matter for Black tech? Because we know that there's something called a network gap that we realize here. That a lot of times companies talk about not being able to find, tech talent, but it's actually because we're not connected. There's Black tech talent not connected to the current pipeline of companies. And then the things that make, shrink that network gap is mentorship. So now during COVID, when mentorship has now been lost, what do you think that means for the second gentleman trying to job hunt? We know that during COVID, the network and the impact of your network, that is what's going to help you drive, the new opportunities, the hidden job market. So if you cannot be networked, if you cannot have a mentor during this time, right? Coming into COVID, Black community and Black tech community was not as connected. Now imagine not being able to see a Tim in the hallway. I don't know if you would see Tim in the hallway anyways, right? But imagine not being able to see, like you just can't bump into people anymore. There's a level of intentionality. There's a level of, now more than ever, it's now going to be about, can you introduce me, because I'm not just going to bump into them. And if you don't have that first level of introduction, imagine the disadvantage. This is now what we're beginning to think about and see post-COVID, right? When the jobs come back, how will it impact Black tech? Although we're just as smart, just as educated, and data's clear on that stuff, we're not just as networked. So if the network is not there, then are we actually hiring Black tech? And then the question here, I always sort of say now, anytime I speak, is there's a difference between hiring the best talent or the talent the best. The opportunity here is, can we hire the best talent and go find it? But if there's a network gap, if there's no networking happening because of COVID, if job hunting is harder for everyone, but understanding the additional layer of the network gap, right? How do you ensure that you hire the best talent? So in terms of, work situation, you will see here, the question was, has your work situation changed as a result of COVID, right? Black tech. And you'll see here, 23.4% of respondents said their work employment has been affected, which means laid off, right? 8%, right? Other changes, which is, in there, it sort of speaks to like part-time, full-time, right? And then, reduced hours, right? You'll see that 23%, right, have been impacted by it. If you overlay that with sort of the general population, you'll see this is slightly higher. And then, of course, have you or anyone close to you been diagnosed with the virus, right? You will see here that, yes, family and friends, right? 21%. And then, yes, personally, 1.4% of your Black tech employees have been impacted. Together, between personally, I have been, or my family, right? 23%, right? Have been impacted. That's what? 1 in 4, right? Directly or, with a close family and friend. And I know that personally because I hear the stories every single day that people have to bury their parents, bury their grandparents, bury their cousins, bury their uncles, show up at work on Monday. In your workplaces, you can see 1 in 4 in your workplaces. And then the really interesting thing is there's not a lot of Black tech professionals in Canada and US that have actually applied for, government assistance, although they're eligible. Half? You are eligible, but you don't apply because, pride. I want to work. I want to find a job, right? This dispels another myth that I won't go into now, but I'm sure you get it, right? Now we're focused on adding value in our community and in the tech community quickly, rapidly. And then this is really interesting to me because this touched me, right? I think, you probably understand it by now as well. Overall mental health, 51%, 52%. Worried about job loss, about family health, or worried about the future of work post-pandemic. 1 in 2. The mental load. I'm worried about my job. Am I going to be next? My family, are they going to get sick? Am I going to get sick? If I lose my job now, how do I get back into tech? My network is not even as big. What happens to even post-pandemic? I'm not sure what's happening because remember, at leadership levels, we may have a sense of what's happening. We're talking amongst each other. But if we're not talking to other Black tech professionals, even at other, senior Black tech professionals, because of the network gap, we're not connected, then there's this worry. The future, what's happening post-pandemic? 52% of your Black tech employees are worried, right? 52%. I know everyone is worried, but 1 in 2 are worried about their job, their family's health, because they've seen other black folks sick, losing their jobs. It's prevalent. Again, you get up and you go to work and you show up every day. And it's really, this data point is really interesting around sort of like, like how are people feeling, right? In terms of am I calm, right? Am I not, right? So what we found is sort of, overall more men indicate they're feeling calm than other genders, right? And then you find that Americans and others are not feeling as calm as Canadians. We'll leave that one alone as to why. But, the data point sort of speaks to like, the level of calmness, right? And then you can see in terms of, your age, right, determines, how worried you are, right? Your gender determines how worried you are, right? And of course, your experience level. And then, of course, I'm worried about the future post-pandemic, right? What do you find? More women indicate they are more concerned about the future than men. That's really interesting data point, right? And then Canadians and others are more worried about the future than Americans, which is nuanced than what we saw in the previous data set. So what are we hearing about, worry? Right? Of course, work has become more intense. We are all feeling that. All of us. We're working all the time. You're still, listening to me now, right? Keep in mind the additional layer, right? Future looks scary for job stability because I don't know. I'm not in the know. I don't have those networks. I don't know what to expect, right? Remember the other data set about worried about the future, right? Again, it's been depressing not being able to land a job. We're all feeling that. Understand the additional layer of I don't have a network as like strong as other communities, right? Increased anxiety about, of course, the future job prospects. So Black tech professionals are worried about the future of jobs and the prospects and the stability, but also the mental load, right? Because those 18 hours, you still got to take care of, your sick parents, your sick family. You still got to make sure that, you're sending money over to folks that may have lost their jobs. Those are the additional pieces that we are seeing, right? That as tech companies, we need to be just aware of, right? So what we came up with as we went through the data, right? As the executives sort of dug in, right? And thought about like, what this looks like. We spoke to members, spoke to executives, and came up with the table of elements, right? And kudos to, advisors from LinkedIn, from RBC that were able to sort of like steer us in this direction. But when you look at the table of elements, you look at it from both ends, both the Black tech talent and the tech companies. And you've begun to see that tech companies, if they actually want to support Black tech, right, both post-pandemic, right, and also looking at, like when you want to move the needle in terms of anti-Black racism, there's no more excuse about like, what do we do? The data and this sort of, element table has pointed companies and individuals in the right direction. So in companies, you've begun to see that there are actually elements on the right-hand side of the screen that actually enables you to move the needle. And there's some things that we've seen that if you do, and you do with intention, you can actually, move the needle. So for example, what do I do? Number one, talent acquisition. Are they connected with Black tech? Is your TA team connected with the Black tech ecosystem? Are your people leaders? What we found out is the bottleneck is not just with TA, the bottleneck is with people leaders. Because like hires like. And in tech, we connect to our network in order to make a hire. So if your personal professional network is not diverse, then you will not hire diverse at scale. So are your people leaders network diverse? And are they connected to the Black tech ecosystem? And if they're not, we're not going to move the needle. Does your company understand the Black tech the Black tech experience? Not the Black experience alone, because it's nuanced in technology. Not, just sort of like theoretical pieces, but do you have an understanding of the Black tech experience? Or is it just you have the understanding of the Black experience in your workplace? Or do you have the macro sense? If you don't, how are you building it? Because that's going to impact the way you hire, the way you attract. Anti-Black racism training, not anti-racism, anti-Black racism. Have you done that? Because we know upward mobility at some point sort of stalls for Black tech professionals. Again, not because of experience, not just because, you get pulled up into an executive, you get pulled in. But we also know we pull up people that look like us, that feel like us, that would like that person reminds me of me. Chip off the old block. So if we don't intentionally mentor and sponsor, that's another conversation, sponsor top talent from the Black community, you are not going to get more people at the executive, no matter how much you do it. You try. Because we know it's about sponsorship, especially into the executive rank. Somebody has to pull you up. So internally, do you have something? Your Black ERG, I can speak a lot about this, but very high level. Are you focused beyond them just being available for Black History Month? Like, have you tied it to some type of KPI? As they're building, capacity, right? Are you seeing their leadership growth? Are you rewarding it? Do they have a budget that they can actually make impact? Do you support them to grow? Do you recognize the impact they're making? Because it is a lift. Training for your all people leaders. So, as people leaders, you may understand how to build effective teams. You may not know how to build diverse, effective teams. And the most effective teams are diverse ones. But some people leaders may not know how to work with women or people with disability or Black professionals. It's not because they're racist or they're, it's just because they don't know how. Is there an opportunity internally to help build that capacity? Because if not, what you will find is you have more Black professionals disproportionately leaving your company. More Black professionals disproportionately being let go. Not because they're not skilled, but because they're not like what others are used to. Have you thought about, and this is something, in the US we're seeing, like we've seen lots of movement on, in Canada we're really pushing. Have you thought about decoupling Black and visible minority? Many companies came to me before and said, oh, we don't have a problem. Our visible minority number is fantastic. And then they double tapped on the data. And then they saw that their Black tech professionals are underrepresented in a significant way. And then, of course, intentionally developing a referral system within your company, right? Brand visibility. Are you showing up in Black tech, or you just think they're going to come to you, right? It's just like basketball or soccer, right? Or baseball, right? And sports analogy. To get the best talent, the best prospect, you flip every stone to find. Therefore, you win championships. If you want to win as a company, are you attracting the best people? Or are you hoping that you throw out a job posting and hopefully someone applies, right? Hope is not a strategy. And of course, talent acquisition prep. Listen, this is something I'm so passionate about. When you have a network, they prep you for a job interview. You've gotten a 3-hour prep before a job interview. And because we know that Black tech professionals, their network is not connected to the hiring managers, all those people, what it usually means then, other people are coming into job opportunities and interviews 3 hours prepped. The Black tech professional is just coming hand swinging with my smarts. Even if I had more experience than the other person, I'm not as prepped, not because I didn't get ready, but just because the person has insider knowledge. So is it really democratizing opportunities? And then of course, job postings, right? Understanding the nuances of sort of Black and Black women and, Black from the LGBTQ community and different abilities and newcomers, understanding those nuances, because it is not Black community, it's Black communities. And then of course, your board representation and your leadership representation. Man, when I saw the board numbers across Canada and US, it was unfortunate. That's the only word I can use. And then in Canada is the same. There's no way that, you have a bunch of amazing Black tech professionals coming in, growing up in Canada, growing up in the US, right? You know, finishing school, right? Getting their first gig and then stopping. It's just not like it's not how sort of physics works. It's not, there's something there. There's a barrier that's blocking it, right? The network gap. Anti-Black racism, right? So there has to be a level of intention. So the task force action plan, and I'll finish up here, right? I see there's a bunch of folks in comments. The action plan is focused on 3 pieces: short term, medium term, long term. So the first piece is we'll launch the task force today, and the periodic table, this periodic table is going to be launched on the BPTN website, and it's going to be an interactive tool that is being built with BPTN, supported by TWG, right? One of our partners. And that sort of periodic table, you will be able to take a self-assessment as a company and see where you are at and see what you need to do. And then, of course, in October, there's the summit. October 22nd, 23rd. If you're not there, right, I'm not sure what the problem is, but I assume you will be there, because it'll be 10,000 plus Black tech professionals. It will be awesome. And you need to ensure that other allies in your company and Black tech professionals are there. I do not believe that Black tech professionals should have to pay for a summit this year, really, whenever, because they work for big corporations, they work for, tech companies, and this is an opportunity to ensure that you are putting them, in a place that they're learning, they're growing, they're bringing people to your company. In terms of midterm, right, we are going to build a global virtual campus. We call it a repository, all things Black tech. That companies are going to be able to come in and engage. The Black tech is going to be able to engage each other. That is going to be opportunities for training and development. There's going to be opportunities for interviews. All of those pieces is going to happen on this global platform. We're excited about that. There's going to be 1 million plus Black tech professionals from across North America. There's going to be no more, that network gap, we're going to shrink it. And I believe strongly, when we shrink that network gap, the opportunities increase, because this is not about education. This is not about skill. We're not having a skill conversation here. We're having a conversation about network, right? So I'm excited about it. And then long term, right, on full integration of the campus, right, and then the periodic table all in one place. So very much excited about that, and about what that sort of looks like. This didn't always be showing up. I don't know what the problem is with this then. So, really very excited about that. So this has been an opportunity for us to really lean in, right? And lean in to a really important conversation. And this conversation has been about Black tech, about the disproportionate impact on the ecosystem. So I wanted to, firstly, just thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, right? And I want to take some time to answer some of your questions that you may have. I know, there must be a whole bunch that I've not sort of looked at, but it's been really, really, really cool to have those conversations. So I see right now that most conversations are happening in the Q&A section, right? If there's any particular questions, right, that you have, please put it in it's happening in the chat section. If you could put it in the Q&A section, it will allow me to, easily find it. So if you have asked a question that I've missed, right, please, take it from the chat, put it in the Q&A section, right? Really, really excited about this opportunity, right? BPTN is incredibly, focused on providing value for our ecosystem, for our companies, right? And for Black tech, full stop, right? And that requires us to be focused on, a few key pieces, right? Of course, meaning that we're focused on like our membership, supporting our membership to grow, supporting our membership to thrive, and ensuring that we have an opportunity to grow a more robust ecosystem, right, that enables people to do really well, right, and for companies to grow and to build. So I'm going to open it up for questions, right, or try to find some of your questions here. Oh, so there's a question from Shelly around sort of like the financially displaced, accessing the summit, right? Great question. That was something on my mind through and through, right? And the biggest thing for me is no one should pay, right? So we've sort of put in on the website right now a scholarship, right? That's currently brought to you by SAP, and we're excited about other partners that have stepped up, right? Meaning that if you cannot afford the summit, you can actually go on the website, click on the scholarship, right? And we would pay for your section, right? We'll pay for your summit passes, right? Just to make sure that resources are not a barrier to entry in 2020. Terry asked about with all the issues this session has raised, how much we can help each other move forward. Yeah, absolutely. So with all the things that we've seen, right, what we also needed to see, Terry, is a unique vantage point into what is actually happening, right? That the media narrative may be very, very different, right, than what is actually happening on the ground. And I think there's an opportunity for us, right, and companies to actually lean in together and move the dial together, right? So I'm excited about the data and sort of being able to share that with you today. The next question around with the COVID restrictions and obstacles, what activities would help increase networking? So, we were very clear that the number one activity right now to increase networking is virtual networking. You got to show up at summits, not just BPTNs, but every summit or any summit, right? If there's mentorship, formal mentorship opportunities within your company, you got to take advantage of it, right? If you're thinking about, if there's a bunch of webinars that are happening, the good ones give you an opportunity to engage, like you've engaged today with each other, right? So those are really, really important places for you to engage with each other and to step up and to be intentional about it. So those are some of the things that I think is really, really important. The next question, right, is will this initiative have a resiliency model embedded within the talent pipeline? I would love to understand that question a little bit more, right? So if you can sort of lean into that question a little bit more in terms of what do you mean by a resiliency model? Are you speaking about, will they be will Black tech talent be supported in a more holistic way? And if that's the question, that is the goal of our work. That is BPTN as a company. That's what we do, is a holistic support of the Black tech ecosystem, and also supporting companies to be aware, right, and providing those supports in order to ensure that they are retaining their Black tech talent. So the next question is around how do we connect with BPTN in a more intentionally build that network. So BPTN members are on Slack. BPTN members are sort of on Facebook. Our backend data obviously proprietary, so we cannot provide people's information to the external community. But what we do is we provide platform. We provide a place and a space for people to connect, right? So if you're not connected to our Slack group, please go on bptn.ca, right, /join, right? And then you can sort of join our Slack group and, begin being part of that network and working directly with other amazing Black tech professionals. And then there was a question around, are these initiatives, especially when it comes to professional networking, developed from demographic area or BPTN going centralized network professionals? It's not each field. Our focus is technology, so we're not doing in other industries. It is technology, right? It is sort of geographic based, but we also recognize that actually job opportunities are now global because we are virtual by design, right? Or virtual by default, right? So, you know, we always say, yes, if a company is hiring in Toronto or in New York, right? You know, there's a network over there that we can actually connect you to. And I think that's where the global platform is going to become really, really powerful, that it is not dependent on you know, BPTN or BPTN staff to do it, but like we built the infrastructure and the scaffolding that folks can connect into each other in a really direct and intentional way, right? So we're really excited about that. Glenn, I think your spotlight needs to be updated, so just be mindful of that. And then there was another question around, you know, how externally are companies hiring? Yeah, so Michelle, I'm not sure of your question. If you can rephrase it, it would help me sort of answer your question more thoroughly. Yeah. So Charles, you were looking at sort of the data around sort of BPTN ecosystem. There wasn't any option or representation for Black tech talent in healthcare. So we did not break down by industry because we assumed, Charles, that the industry was, you know, technology. The way that we sort of represent, you know, different people is by the areas of focus. So are they developers? Are they sales? Are they ops? Are they dev? Are they QA? Right? That's sort of that's how we collect our data point, right? Rather on sub industries like health tech or clean tech or, you know, all those sort of sub industries within technology. So we focus really at a high level and focus on sort of driving impact directly on like at the top level, like what is your area of expertise, rather than in what subsector do you work within technology. Questions are still coming in. Sorry guys, I may not be able to answer everything. My throat is dry and you all keep asking questions, which is good. What are some of the common challenges that you see Black ERGs face? What advice do you have for ERG leaders to make impact? The biggest issues that I see sort of with ERG is like lack of resource, that they are super full, right? That there's actually not a lot of, you know, like support, right? Really, when you start looking at like resources, there's actually not a lot of support. You know, the budgets are not that significant, right? So, you know, that's where, you know, I see the need. On top of that, right, I see the need in terms of, or the missed opportunities in terms of like actually recognizing that, you know, folks in ERGs, any ERG that is effective, they're actually building a skill, right? That they're building leadership capacities in a big way, right? And are you putting, you know, metrics in place to ensure that you're actually providing value for those folks? An executive that I spoke to recently said something really interesting to me. He said, sometimes when you're a part of an ERG or a diversity initiative, you actually put your career on the line because you may be saying things or doing things that are contrary, right? So imagine when you're not part of an ERG and you're really effective, right? Are you being recognized for that? And are you being put on a path to leadership because you are building incredible leadership capacity? So the insight from the task force research are applicable to many other industries. I agree. Will there be any opportunities for cross-sector conversations around this data? We're always open to it. This is sort of a slice from the tech ecosystem. We believe other data from other industries are also there and should be there, right? And folks should lean in to this stuff, right? And our data can be used as, you know, again, a slice of the pie from the Black tech ecosystem specifically. Next question from G Day. Very interesting to see that number, what the numbers currently say. Does BPTN plan to keep tracking data to analyze for improvement and otherwise? That's a great question. Been thinking about it, you know. I think what I want to be doing, what we're probably going to be doing is an annual survey, right? Sort of the state of Black tech, right? To be able to provide this data into the ecosystem so people are aware and people can have conversations, and also companies can actually move forward in a really intentional way, right? So, you know, we're definitely thinking about it, and we're excited about that opportunity. So in light of COVID and real job insecurity issues, what are the proposed incentive mechanisms for corporate Canada to meet adequate diversity, inclusion, and diversity goals? That's a fantastic question. So the first piece is this: you need to build back better. The reality is this: in technology is going to boom post-COVID, right? Because people have built, and I truly believe it, people have built muscles. The consumer has built a new muscle, right? And now they're more, you know, technology based, right? And technically savvy, right? So what does that mean? That means there's a huge opportunity for us to actually really do something special. And I think tech is going to do really well. Now, in order for you to do well, you need to hire at scale, meaning that there's going to be an opportunity to hire. But if you hire slowly, you're not going to hire the best people, right? And if you hire slowly, your burn rate is not going to be good. You're not going to be able to do the things you need to do. You're not going to be able to capture market quickly. So what does that mean? There's a business imperative for you to actually ensure that you have a diverse pipeline. Therefore, having access to other networks that other companies may not be tapping into, right? So it actually makes sense in order for you to drop down the time to hire, right? Because if it takes longer for you to hire, that means less things get done, right? That means less money gets made, right? So if you don't drop down the time to hire, you are actually losing money. On top of that, if you don't provide, you know, diversity, and you don't make sure that your teams are diverse, you're not as effective, and you cannot reach, you know, new markets. What does that mean? If you cannot reach new markets in a global economy now, in a global village, because we're now connected in a really intentional way, right? You're going to lose resources and you're going to lose market share, right? So that's the business case, right? If corporate Canada and you know, corporate US does not recognize the business imperative, I worry about the leadership, right? Because it's absolutely a business imperative there. So you all keep asking questions, but we are just at time. So I want to respect your time. And I want to, you know, in a really, really big way, I want to say thank you, right? Thank you for listening in. Thank you for leaning in. Thank you for, you know, helping us have this conversation. We're very excited about the future and the opportunity, right? And the opportunity for us to do something really, really special and work together, which means, you know, in the next few weeks, you'll be seeing more about the work of the task force, which means, you know, the periodic table that will go live in mid-September. We will send that out to the rest of the ecosystem, right? And obviously, when we start building our global campus, which is over the next few months, right, you will begin to get data and information about that. So I want to say thank you so much for your support, for your engagement, right? Have a wonderful rest of your day, you know, and be well, take care of yourself. And on this Thursday, we're going to be having a session around Black women in technology. Please be there. Please engage. It's going to be a fantastic session. And then next week, we're going to be having a conversation about, you know, being Black in engineering, right? Another fantastic opportunity to really build together and have a fantastic conversation. So thank you so much for your time. Be well, have fun, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care.